then let's think that the way to really overcome dukkha is not by putting band-aids, but by really stopping its causes. In other words, by eliminating the grasping at true existence. So before we can help others on that path that generates the wisdom that counteracts that grasping, then we ourselves have to generate that wisdom inside of our own minds and use it to fully purify our mind streams so that we can fulfill our aim of being of the greatest benefit to others and to ourselves. And so with that motivation, then we listen to the Dharma and share the Dharma today. So we thanks. His Holiness has a visor. His comes straight down, and I get it from the side. Okay, so yesterday we talked about refuge and bodhicitta. I want to go into the four immeasurables a little bit today. So if you look at page 2 of the Sadhana, it's in there. So this is the long version of the four immeasurables. There's shorter versions. And sometimes they come in different orders. In the short version, first you have love, compassion, joy, and equanimity at the end. Here we have equanimity first, then love, compassion, and joy. So there's sometimes differences in the order. And these four immeasurables are in all the Buddhist traditions, and they can also be an object on which to develop serenity or single-pointed concentration. So it can become very powerful in our own minds when we really meditate on these with a lot of enthusiasm and diligence, because it really transforms our mind. And they say, and I think we've all experienced that, the people who do a lot of meditation on love and compassion, when other people are around those people, there's an impact. When you're around somebody who meditates on love and compassion, you feel that attitude from them. Just as when you're around somebody who meditates on anger, you pick up those vibes also. Okay, so here in this long version of the four immeasurables, they have 4 parts. Each one has 4 parts. So if we take the first one, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings were to abide in equanimity, free of bias, attachment, and anger. That's a wish. How wonderful it would be. And it would be wonderful, wouldn't it? And so that's talking about freeing our mind of the bias, attachment, and anger, like we were doing when we meditate on equanimity. And really seeing how subjective the categories of friend, enemy, and stranger are, and how totally unfounded most of our emotions towards people are. That's rather shocking, isn't it? you know, because we really believe our emotions towards other people. And yet when we start to do this meditation and see how all of our emotions and judgments and opinions about other people all, you know, depend on how they relate to me. Me. Yeah. And it becomes very clear how subjective all these emotions are, and yet how much we believe them, you know, and we hold them, and you know, this person has it out for me, I'm sure, you know, and they're a mean person, and da. Okay, or this one from their side is really, truly existent, wonderful, always going to be there for me, until he's not. Yeah. Okay. So it starts out as the wish. Okay, how wonderful it would be. And then the second line of each is, may they abide in this way. So that's a little bit stronger than how wonderful it would be. How wonderful it would be is just tossing it out. You know, may they abide in equanimity is more forceful. We're focusing on it more. May this actually happen. And then the third sentence, I shall cause them to abide in this way, to abide in equanimity. We're getting personally involved here. You know, I'm going to do something to bring this about. I'm not just going to sit on the bylines and say, how wonderful, or may it happen. I'm going to get involved. And then the last one is Guru Deity, referring to Chenrezig, seeing Chenrezig and our spiritual mentor as having the same nature. Please inspire me to be able to do so. So the last line is really reaching out to Guru Chenrezig and asking for blessings, inspiration, help, you know, to actually do what we want to do. You know, because sometimes we may see these things of, you know, sentient beings abiding in equanimity and how wonderful it would be, and may that be, and I want to do it, but I don't know what in the world to do. And I'm incapable, you know, this old story. I'm incapable and it's too hard, and you know, I'm so sick of that story. But we keep rerunning it, aren't we, don't we? You know, it's just too hard, I can't do it, there's so many Buddhas already, they'll take care of the sentient beings. You know, I'm going to go suck my thumb. You know. So to counteract that, we say, Guru Deity, please inspire me to be able to do so. So in other words, I need some energy boost. Yeah? And so we're reaching out to Chenrezig and asking for that. Okay? And so it is with all the other ones. Then the next one, how wonderful it would be if all sentient beings had happiness in its causes. So that's love. So that actually, you know, makes us think, and this might be actually a good topic for discussion, is what is happiness? Because we all say, yeah, I want happiness, and may all sentient beings have happiness, but what in the world is it? You know, and are there different kinds of happiness, and what kind of happiness are we wishing? You know, like when you have a child, you want your child to be happy. Does that mean giving your child everything they want, that you want your child to have everything that they want? Well, you could say, yeah, if my child has everything they want, then they're happy. I want them to be happy. Well, that's in the short term, but what kind of kid are you going to have if you give that child everything they want and they never learn to deal with frustration? Then is your child going to be happy as an adult? No, they're going to be miserable as an adult. Okay? So, you know, we really have to think, well, what does it mean to want them to be happy? Okay? And does happiness come from outside or does it come from inside? And when we want them to have the causes of happiness, what are the causes of happiness? Yeah? Well, money, fame, love. Yeah, what else? Yeah, is that what you're wishing for your kids? Well, there's a lot of people who have money and fame and love, and they're totally miserable. So what's the cause of happiness?
Freedom.
What causes happiness? Hello, you don't know what causes happiness? Then we better start over with Dharma 101. What is the cause of happiness?
Freedom from afflictions, freedom from fear.
But how do you get to the freedom? What's the cause? What brings it about? Virtuous actions. Okay. So that's the immediate cause. The principal cause is virtuous actions. Okay, what's a virtuous action?
Something that brings benefit.
Yes, and what else? How do you create virtuous actions?
With an intention to help.
Okay, with an intention to help.
And not to harm.
And not to harm. And with a mind free from
Anger, attachment.
ignorance, anger, and attachment. Okay, so motivation is really key for making something a virtuous action.
Freedom from anger.
Anger, attachment, and ignorance or confusion. Okay, so if we have a motivation that is free of, you know, confusion regarding, you know, what's virtue and what's not, a mind free of anger and attachment, jealousy and pride, then the actions we do are virtuous actions, and those actions cause happiness. Okay? Those actions are one part of what's necessary to bring about the freedom you're talking about. But freedom doesn't just come from virtuous actions, and it doesn't just come from saying, I want to be free. You know, we have to counteract what keeps us unfree, which is principally the grasping at true existence. Okay, so we have to deliberately counteract that. Okay, so it's an interesting thing, you know, what is it? When we're wishing sentient beings to have happiness and its causes, yeah, to think about that. What does that really mean? What does that look like? Yeah, and if we are wishing, you know, you think of somebody who, you know, really enjoys drinking and gambling and hunting, and you say, I want you to have happiness and its causes, and the causes are virtuous actions.
They're not to be happy.
They're not going to be happy, are they? You know, they're going to say, get off my back. Okay, so you have to be quite skillful sometimes in how you present the cause of happiness to sentient beings, because sometimes we're very attached to our causes of suffering, because we think that it brings us happiness. Yeah. Okay, I remember one time when we were walking near where you used to live, and there was a guy hauling out, on like a baby carriage kind of thing, a buck that he had shot. Do you remember that? And I just like gasped and went, you know. But that guy and his hunting partner, they were like so happy look at what we caught. Yeah? So, you can see, people often take great delight in the negative actions that they create. Yeah? Okay. Or we rejoice in other people's negative actions. Witness all the college students who went out and screamed with delight when when Bin Laden was killed. Yeah? Okay, so, we don't always know what's happiness and what's suffering, and what's the cause of happiness and what's the cause of suffering. Okay, so it's something to think about here. And then the third one, how wonderful it would be if sentient beings were free from suffering and its causes. So that's compassion. And again, may they be free. I shall cause them to be free. Chenrezig, help me to do that. So if I'm going to get involved in helping sentient beings to create the causes of happiness and not create the causes of suffering, I'm going to have to be very wise, very skillful, extremely patient and tolerant, because people are going to get very upset with me. Yeah? It's not like, people, when you teach about karma, that everybody goes, oh, thank you so much. The hunter goes, I don't want to hear that. Yeah, and the person who likes to drink says, no. And, the person who lies a lot says, but you don't understand. Yeah, and the person who, takes things from their office and, renegotiates their income tax, says, but I'm just doing what everybody else does. Yeah? So if you're going to really help sentient beings stop creating the causes of suffering, you have to be willing to take a lot of flack from them. Because sometimes they're going to be very unhappy. And they'll just stand up and march right down that hill. Yeah. Okay. And then the last one, if all sentient beings were never parted from upper rebirth and liberation's excellent bliss. So that's wishing them, what we call the temporal happiness of a good rebirth and the definitive happiness of, liberation and enlightenment. Okay, and so saying, may they never be parted from either of those. Yeah, so as long as sentient beings are in cyclic existence, may they have good rebirths where they don't experience a lot of suffering and where they have all the conditions to be able to practice. And may they ultimately attain the joy of liberation. And so that last one is immeasurable joy. Okay? And it's a good antidote to jealousy. Okay? So this is one of the things. Okay, here's a good example of something that people don't like to hear. Okay, when we're jealous, okay, the last thing we want is for the person we're jealous of to have happiness. Isn't it? Because somehow they have some happiness that they don't deserve that I should have instead. They have some good qualities, some good situation, wealth or good looks or talents or privilege of some sort or another that I don't have and I should have it. That's the way we feel when we're jealous, isn't it? We can't bear somebody else's happiness. So what's the antidote to jealousy? Yeah, may they never be parted from happiness. May they always have happiness. That's the last thing on earth you want to think when you're jealous. Isn't it? The last thing. But it's the antidote, because it's the direct opposite of the way we're thinking. You know, may they have happiness. May they never be separated from happiness. And really coming to realize, hey, I don't lose anything by wishing somebody else happiness. Because sometimes we feel if we wish somebody else happiness, then we're going to get left out of it. Because there's only a limited amount of happiness to go around. And if they get it, I don't have it. Okay? And that's the way we think. It's quite a narrow way of thinking. Yeah. So to really change, and you know, that person who we're so jealous of, saying, isn't that nice that they're happy? No, we don't want to say that, do we? Yeah. That person who your partner is attracted to, may they have happiness and its causes. With him or her. No, never! I want the happiness that comes from my partner. They can't have it. Okay. So, very interesting to think about. Or somebody else who got the recognition, you're working on a project together, and somebody else in the team who did the least amount of work and manipulated us into doing the most, right? You know, that person gets the credit for the project at work. You know, may they have happiness and its causes. May they burn in hell. You know, that's the way we feel. You know, the total absence of virtuous mind in ourselves. We don't want them to, you know, get all the credit. It's our credit. You know, they don't deserve it. We do. It's unfair. Yeah, remember our first vocabulary words? It's unfair. Yeah, I deserve it. They should be unhappy because they manipulated me and they got out of doing anything and then they snuck in at the very end. You know, they need somebody for their own benefit to show them the wrong of what they're doing. Yeah, yeah, for their benefit. Right? Because we only do things that benefit people. Okay. So, yeah. So you can see that, you know, this immeasurable joy is the opposite of what we usually feel. You know. But if we practice it, it really works. You know. And it transforms our jealousy, because it's hard to, you know, if you're in a jealous mind, you can't really say this, yeah? But if you say it enough, then you might realize that it's really in your own best interest to feel this way. Yeah?
And that would work with anger as well, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. Because jealousy is like a branch of anger. So, yeah.
I'm thinking of, I'm going to teach them a lesson.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm going to teach them a lesson. May they have a taste of their own medicine, because that way they'll learn, and then they won't harm anybody else, and they won't create any more negative karma themselves. So I'm going to be the great, benevolent, compassionate one that's going to teach them that lesson. Okay? Yeah? Is this the way you think?
Oh,
Okay. So the four immeasurables are quite powerful to meditate on, you know, very, very powerful. And again, very powerful to practice when you're with other sentient beings. Okay, so then we go on to the special bodhicitta. So especially for the sake of all mother sentient beings, I must quickly and more quickly in this very life attain the precious state of complete and perfect Buddhahood. Therefore, I shall practice the gradual path of Guru Chenrezig Yoga. Okay? So here again, reminding ourselves, especially for the benefit of sentient beings. You know, it's not because I want to be best or I want this or that for myself. It's for the sake of sentient beings. And then quickly and more quickly, there's two meanings to it. Sometimes it can refer to by the path of sutra and the path of tantra. So one quickly, the path of sutra, second quickly, the path of tantra. Or it could also refer to the first quickly, the path of the three lower tantras, and the more quickly is the path of the highest yoga tantra. Okay, and so through that may I attain the precious state of complete and perfect Buddhahood. Okay, so a Buddha is somebody who has abandoned everything there is to be abandoned and realized everything there is to be realized and developed all the excellent qualities to their fullest extent. Okay, so that's a short way to think of what a Buddha is. Okay, so everything that's to be abandoned, and so you just look inside everything you don't like about yourself. All abandoned. Yeah? And plus some other things that you may like about yourself, but we actually need to abandon. Okay, so all that's been abandoned so that it never returns again. And then all the excellent qualities, generosity, ethical conduct, love, compassion, and so on, you know, wisdom, all these have been generated, you know, to their fullest extent. Yeah, limitlessly. Okay? So it's not that a Buddha has a little bit of generosity, but, you know, gets tired or has some compassion and then gets compassion fatigue. You know, it's not like that. Okay? So this is the way we want to become, you know, to have those kinds of qualities. And how are we going to go about it? Okay, by right now practicing the Guru Chenrezig yoga method. Okay, so doing this sadhana. The sadhana is the text, the practice described in the text. Okay, so all of what we've done so far is basically refuge and establishing our motivation. Okay, now when we get into the 7 then prayer, we're getting into the preliminary part of the Chenrezig practice. Okay, and so the preliminary part is to accumulate merit and to purify obstacles and negativities. Okay, and so the 7 then prayer is very, very good for doing that. And so you'll find, you know, the 7 then prayer in so many different texts and in so many different forms. You know, if you read the King of Prayers, the first 2 pages of the King of Prayers is a long version of the 7 then prayer. Okay? And then we have different practices that will pull out one or the other of the different limbs and really emphasize it. Okay? But these 7, when you, I mean, we say them very quickly as we're going through here, but you could actually stop and do a whole meditation on each one, and it really transforms your mind when you do. Okay? So you'll notice there's 7 lines. Each line is for one of the limbs. So the first one is prostration, second is offering, third is confession, fourth is rejoicing, fifth is asking the Guru Buddha to remain, and sixth is asking them to teach the Dharma, and seventh is dedicating the merit. Okay, so our first one, reverently I prostrate with my body, speech, and mind. So physical prostrations, you know, yeah, but prostrations isn't just physical, yeah, because you can go to the gym to do that, okay, but it's also verbal. So we're saying a mantra, or we're saying some praise when we bow to the Buddha, or we're repeating the Buddha's name. So when you're doing the 35 Buddha practices, you know, you're saying the name of each Buddha, and to you I bow down. And, you know, the names of the Buddhas can be quite inspiring. Yeah, it's funny because our names are just basically sounds. They don't have much meaning, do they? Yeah, I mean, does anybody know of a meaning to their, you know, your Western name?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's the bough of a tree.
It's the bough of a tree.
Yeah, Phyllis is the bough of a tree.
Huh.
I don't know which language, but that's the meaning.
That's what Phyllis is.
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Okay. Mine's from the French root, is to cherish.
To cherish?
Yeah.
Okay. Huh.
Mine's Hebrew, but a gift from God.
Oh,
Gift from God.
okay.
Hebrew. Pure.
Okay. Well, I never knew any of that.
And I think joy means
baby.
joy.
Yeah, yeah. You know, if somebody's named Joy or Felicity or, you know, something like that. Yeah. But, you know, so many of our names, I mean, they don't give you a meaning when you first, like I said, I didn't even know any of this, so I don't even think of these things when I say that particular name. Yeah. But the names of the Buddhas all have some meaning. And so you say the name and it gives you some feeling about that particular Buddha. Okay? Okay, so that's the verbal prostration, and then mental prostration is thinking about their good qualities. Yeah? And also when we're bowing, imagining light coming from them into us, purifying. So prostration, you know, purifies our arrogance, yeah? And it helps us to really see the good qualities of the triple gem. And it's important for us to see the good qualities in others, you know, and to really train our mind to do that, because if we don't, then we remain very jealous and very partial, and it becomes a hindrance for us to develop good qualities. Because if we can't acknowledge them in others, how are we going to develop those same qualities in ourselves? Okay? Whereas if we can really see the good qualities in others and show them respect without feeling jealous or like we're losing out or we're inferior, yeah, then it actually opens the door for us to generate those qualities. Okay? So it's very good for our mind to learn to praise others and to learn to respect others. Yeah. We usually want praise and we want respect because we want to be best and we want to be acknowledged for being best. But it actually is better for our Dharma practice to give the praise and give the respect. And, you know, when we do praise others, it makes our own mind happy, doesn't it? Yeah, when we criticize other people, it's really kind of distasteful after a while. You really feel like, bleh. You know, there's no hope for this world. Everybody's creepy except me. praise others, then we feel, you know, that there's some hope in the world. Yeah? Don't we? Somebody have a question over here?
I just was going to say, you know, it's creepy, except for you and for me, and I'm not always so sure about you.
That's it. Yeah.
This double in prayer, if you were to meditate on each one separately, like is there like a method or you just whatever comes to mind?
Okay. Well, if you want to do a meditation on each one separately, here with the first one, you could imagine all the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas in front of you and yourself surrounded by all sentient beings, and you're all bowing and saying praise and having a mind of delight and respect for the Buddhas. Or you could do the whole practice of the 35 Buddhas. Yeah. You've been doing the chanting, right, in the second session? Mm-hmm. Yeah, do you like it?
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, it's really beautiful, isn't it? So often what I do when, you know, doing the chanting and the bowing is if I feel ill at ease about something, then I put those very people right there in my visualization. So there was for a while where I was chanting with all the members of the U.S. Congress. And we were all bowing to the Buddha together. You know? And it does wonders to overcome that mind that just says, you know, everybody, the whole thing is screwed. You put everybody in there. Yeah? Or when they kill different terrorists, or where there's a terrorist threat, I put all the terrorists, all the army, everybody, they're all, both sides of the thing, they're all in my visualization, and we're all bowing to the Buddha together and chanting the Buddha's name. Okay? And so it really, it gives you a whole different way of looking at things, you know, because we're all thinking of the Buddha's good qualities and incorporating all of those people, thinking that, you know, imagining that they're doing that. So it helps you think, well, they are capable of virtue, you know? Yeah. And that you are doing something, just at least considering and putting them in there. Okay? So if there's, you know, somebody you feel ill at ease about, or somebody who's harming you, or some stressful situation or whatever, put all those people in your visualization and just think they're all chanting together with you. Yeah? It's really quite wonderful when you do that. Okay? Then the second limb is you know, offerings. I present offering of every clouds of every type of offering, actual and mentally transformed. So the actual offerings are the ones that we put on the altar, and the mentally transformed ones are the ones that we imagine. Okay? So, you know, if you look in the blue book, there is a practice written by Zopa Rinpoche, the extensive offerings.
48.
Page 48? Yeah. Okay? So that is a whole practice that you can do of just imagining offerings. You know? Imagining all these different Buddhas and all these different forms and so many beautiful offerings. And you give those offerings again and again and again and again. And it's a way to create merit. It's a way to purify our miserliness and our stinginess. And also, imagining beautiful things and offering them makes our own mind very, very happy. You know, when you imagine beauty, your mind gets transformed. And when you're able to give that beauty without any sense of grasping onto it, you just give and give and give and imagine all these sentient beings receiving it and all these Buddhas receiving it, then your mind gets very, very happy. Yeah? So similarly, when we offer our food before lunch, yeah, to think of the food as being transformed into blissful wisdom nectar. And what I often do is then I give all that wisdom nectar to all the sentient beings, think that it satisfies all of their needs and wants, and then all of the sentient beings and me together, we all then make offerings together to the three jewels. So again, including everybody else and making offering to the three jewels after their needs and wants have been satisfied. And and so doing this, when you meditate in this way, it really transforms your own mind and your own mood. Yeah? And I think if you do this, it can be a very good antidote to depression and to feeling kind of low and discouraged. Yeah? So I'm trying to, in talking about this, give you some ideas about how to use these practices in your daily life. How to creatively use them so that they really mean something to you. Okay. Then the fourth one, third one, I confess all my negative actions accumulated since beginningless time. Okay. So beginningless rebirth, all my negative actions. Yeah? So even if I can't remember them, I still regret them. I still don't want to do them again. Yeah, and I want to restore my relationship with whoever I acted negatively towards. And I want to do some kind of remedial behavior to really show my sincerity. Okay? So that's what we're talking about when we talk about confession, those four opponent powers. So regret, and determination not to do it again, refuge and bodhicitta, which transforms our attitude towards whoever we harmed, and then some kind of remedial behavior, which could also be service for the community or some kind of dharma practice, something along that line. Okay, so this third limb of confession is very, very powerful for alleviating guilt, remorse, confusion, resentment. Okay, because you just totally purify everything from your past. Okay. So it's very powerful. So this winter, some people are going to be doing the Vajrasattva retreat here at the Abbey, and some of you may be doing it, the Vajrasattva by afar. Okay, so doing one session a day. And, this kind of emphasis on purification, really, it brings up a lot in your mind, because to clean the dirt, you have to look at it. But the thing is, you actually begin to clean it up and free yourself from it. So it's a very, very strong healing method. Okay? Because I think, that a lot of times from situations that happened in the past, our bad feelings about them, our confused feelings about them, our resentment, we're holding some kind of anger, aren't we? And when we're holding anger, it's somebody else's fault. They did this. Yeah? And so whenever we're holding anger, we're giving away our power, because if it's somebody else's fault, there's nothing I can do. Okay? So when we do purification, and, we imagine purifying even our own anger, okay, then we are purifying. To do that, we have to purify how we look at the situation too, because we can't continue to look at it as it's all the other person's fault and then not have anger, because it's contradictory, isn't it? Yeah, I can't be free of anger and yet still think it's their fault. Yeah. I have to somehow come to terms with it. and have some compassion for these other people. I have to restore my relationship with them by changing how I feel towards them. And I also have to see the situation as a product of karma. Not that these people are evil and they're out to get me, but they're completely controlled by their own karma and their afflictions. Okay? And I'm controlled by my karma and my afflictions, because why am I in that situation? Because of something I did, you know. So we're all just, you know, conditioned phenomena. And when you see yourself and others as conditioned phenomena, then you take the good and bad out of it, like good person and bad person. You know, there's still virtuous and unvirtuous actions, yeah, but we stop seeing it as that person's a bad person, and instead see they have this conditioning from their previous lives or from earlier this life, you know. And because they have this conditioning, they're acting in that way. Yeah. I know when it was the whole Rodney King thing in LA, when I really thought of it, if I had been brought up as any of the different figures in that, I would have acted just like them. Yeah. So I can't hold myself separate and say I'm better, and I can't say this one's wrong and that one's wrong. You know, this one's conditioned by their upbringing, that one's conditioned by their upbringing. They're all under the influence of their afflictions. And that's a sad situation, because they all want happiness, nobody wants suffering, and yet they're all creating the cause of suffering. Okay? So if I see the whole situation in that way, then I let go of my negative feelings. Okay, so you know, a lot of the confession is this process. Okay, and then also there's things that we've done in the past that we look at that we don't feel particularly proud of. Yeah. Do you have some things that you did in the past that you don't feel particularly proud of? No. Yeah. Okay. So instead of just, you know, going around our whole life feeling so much shame, so much guilt, like, I don't want anybody to know this about me because then for sure they won't like me, and, you know, just this whole heavy-heartedness we have in reaction to our own negative actions, you know, and yet still trying to explain them away one way or another. It's so healing just to say, I goofed. You know? My mind was not thinking clearly. I was under the control of my afflictions. I had very poor judgment, and I did what was not helpful to myself or to others, and I regret it. And so there's a certain kind of relief that comes from being honest with ourselves in that way, because it takes so much energy to rationalize and blame and deny and justify and suppress and repress and all those psychological things we do. And it's just like, I blew it. It doesn't mean I'm a bad person. Okay? It doesn't mean I'm a hopeless person. It just means at that moment my mind was overcome with afflictions. And I regret that. But I can change. And that is why I'm doing the confession, because I am in the process of changing. I'm regretting it. I'm making a determination not to do it again. I'm changing my attitude towards whoever I harmed. I'm doing some kind of remedial action. You know? So I don't have to carry this around with me. I can put it down. Yeah, the past is over. Okay, and I'm healing the past, and I'm going to go forward. Okay, So this practice of confession is very healing that way. Yeah, very, very helpful. Yeah.
I know that when I first began doing the purification practices, it took me a while to get over the resistance of wanting to accept that the harm, and also my attachment to the pattern of blaming others for my hurt feelings and my difficulties. I mean, it took me a number of years to really understand that this was for my benefit, because I was really attached to my idea and my whole storyline that I had built for decades. And I was not willing to relinquish it for the first few times. So I did this with a lot of half-heartedness, but after a while it really did start to soften up. The willingness came much more readily. So you can't give up right away if you see that you have some resistance to it.
Yeah, yeah. And like you said, many of us have, over a long period of time,
invested a lot.
Yeah, created a worldview that we believe in, even though it makes us miserable. And we've invested a lot in that worldview. So we have to, just work it ourselves, Yeah, you can't deal with your mind by in the face, You have to deal with your mind by Okay. Okay, so I'll continue tomorrow.